we're live.
All right, we got 6:31 actually. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Beth Bailey,
Here.
Marge Jorgensen,
Here.
Tony Platt,
Here.
John Kraus,
Here.
Mary Coontz,
Here.
Lisa Tanzer,
Here.
Jack Reed,
Here.
Gary Spielman.
Here.
Joanne Jesselman.
Here. Join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have minutes from regular meeting on June 14th, special meeting on June 14th.
I move for approval of the June 14th regular meeting and special meeting minutes.
All right, a motion and a second then to approve the minutes for the regular meeting and special meeting on June 14th. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign. Those are approved. Huge crowd out in the library. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for those that are joining us online as well. Nobody signed up for public comment. We will move on to announcements.
The board may recess into closed session per Wisconsin statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to discuss specific employees in the evaluation of the superintendent. The board will reconvene into open session for the possible transaction of business and adjournment.
All right, thank you. We have an agenda then.
I move for adoption of the agenda as printed.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second then to adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right. We will move right on then to 9.1, end of year accountability report. Jesse.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me be here today. I'm going to go through our end of the year accountability report. So a brief review of our strategic plan components. We have our 5-year strategic objectives, but what I'm going to be talking about tonight is that next layer of items. I'm going to talk a little bit about our strategic metrics, our school success plans, and our district strategic actions. Before I get into that, I just wanted to review our continuous improvement process. So going back a year, June, July of 2020, we were planning for this past school year. And then in August, we had our administrative academy where we had developed our initial school success plans and strategic actions. And we had a workshop with the board. As we go into September and October then, that is when our school success plans really get finalized, fine-tuned, and we have our student learning objectives that come into place as well. As we move through the fall, we put our actions from our plan, our school success plans, and our student learning objectives into action, and we monitor student progress. Then at the middle of the year, January, February, we kind of have that midpoint check, and you get an update as well. And we do a little bit of revising for our plans as needed. And then as we move into the spring, we continue to implement our actions, and that's also when we have a lot of our formalized assessments. And then this past June and into July now, we had another administrative academy, reviewed our data results, and then I'm here to report on those now. One other thing I wanted to spend a little time with was just talking about some of the considerations for this past year. Now, you're all well aware that since March of 2020, it's been a very unique time in our world, and it's been a unique time in education. So we spent a lot of the past year and planning for the past year really just trying to do our best to support our students, our families, our staff during the pandemic, during this time. But realistically, as we look at our data results, the impact of virtual instruction and the changes in instructional settings, with students being hybrid or students being cohorted, students that were quarantined. That really had an impact upon our results, not just for us, but nationwide. However, one of the things that I think is unique to Beaver Dam is we had a really concerted effort and put a lot of importance on collecting our typical data from our students and from our staff. We realized that the 2021 data isn't necessarily comparable to other years, but we needed to find where our staff were at, where our students were at, so that we can better plan moving forward. Now I'm going to step into our strategic actions. So DSA 1 focused on ELL programming. So the team completed their review for ELL needs, and they have a plan in place for to implement coming into the 21-22 school year. DSA 2 focused on staff resiliency, and as I mentioned, as a district, we really tried to be as responsive and supportive to our staff needs as we could this past year. DSA 3 focused on our essential standards, and we have essential standards identified at least in all of our core areas, and the next steps are to align those to different assessments and align those within some of our different units. DSA 4 focused on our 5-year facility plan, and there was a lot of noticeable work done with that, with the Jefferson construction and expansion. Lincoln has work being done right now. We had our bleachers done. We have the tennis courts being done, so there's a lot of visible progress based upon that DSA. But also within DSA 4, we have continued to monitor and adjust plans based upon financial realities, based upon unexpected realities, such as the bleachers that had to get replaced sooner than we had anticipated due to weather damage last year. DSA 5 focused on social emotional outreach efforts. So with that, we had over 350 students last year that were served directly with our school social workers or our school psychologists or our school counselors. And we had over 100 students that were referred to having some outside provider services. So a lot of work was done with that social emotional outreach. And then our final DSA, DSA 6, was the social media expansion to connect with district engagement and perception. So what we learned from that, again, is that we know the areas we need to do a better job promoting. You'll hear a little bit more about that tonight, but we know what we need to do, and plans are in place to do a better job of that promotion moving forward. So that's a quick highlight tour of our DSAs. Next, school success plans. So our school success plans start with a data review. So June, July, that's the time we really go and look at the data and start to develop what are the greatest areas of needs that we have for different buildings and different levels. And then what we have within our school success plans is we have 3 objectives, each with action steps. So there's an English language arts objective, there's a math objective, and then there's what we'd call school connectedness objective. And I'll talk a little bit more about that moving forward. So some general takeaways from our school success plans. Elementary, there was growth in academic performance, and across the board there was growth in academic performance. Looking at where students were at when they came in September, looking at where they ended in May, we had growth. And there was a lot of work also done at the elementary level just on finding ways for staff to be able to best support the academic needs of all students. So expanding upon our essential standards, expanding upon some of the commitments buildings are going to make to ensure that students move forward and are successful. But one of the takeaways that came out of the elementary level too was just commentary and also the data on how students that were in person fared compared to students in mass that were virtual fared. And again, there was that difference. At the secondary level, highlights from school success plans, some takeaways. One was there was an increased availability of data. We implemented some fall assessments at the high school last year, and we're going to expand upon those moving forward. Also, there was work to adjust some of our processes to be able to better respond to student needs. An example would be our problem-solving team process that was refined and developed more here at the secondary level. And then there's a lot of work done in programming and planning to support students that are identified at risk as well. Along with that, there was a focus on school culture and the connected collective commitments. So again, thinking about how can we best meet the needs of our secondary age students, and how can we help connect with them when they are not present in our schools every day? How can we develop that culture and connect staff who are also having to cohort and can't be as close as they were in the past? So there's a lot of work done on that at the secondary level. Then our strategic metrics, there is a handout for you, and I'm not going to run through every single strategic metric. However, I'm going to highlight some of the different areas as we go through. But the handout just does show where our goals are, where we are at this year, and where we are at historically. I'm going to spend a little time talking about English language arts, and I'll spend a little time talking about math after that. So, again, our performance data dipped in 2021, and really that was to be expected. But as we look, our overall performance in the area of English language arts and math as well was very comparable to the 2021 national trends and 2021 state trends. There's more national data that's available than state data right now, but across the nation there were dips. A couple pieces though to note at the elementary level, kindergarten achievement was very good, and that's going to fall within English language arts and within math. So that's a good point where we were able to get our kindergartners where they need to be going into next year. Another high point was at the third grade level, growth at third grade, and we know that early literacy up until third grade is such a key time for helping students be on the path to be successful in language arts, and we had great growth at that third grade level from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. An example of a building that had some really nice growth was Lincoln Elementary. Ms. Bates and her team, they focused on some specific interventions with sets of their students and had excellent results, so that's a takeaway to try to expand next year. As we look at maybe some things that the data told us that we can do differently next year, phonics at the primary grade levels showed up as, hey, that's an area that we need to spend a little bit more focus on, or a little bit different with our instruction within that. At the secondary level, language arts was the area we noticed the greatest difference in performance between our in-person students and our virtual students. And then we also saw that the areas of like language and then vocabulary were the areas that students struggled in the most this past year. Looking at math, again, our math data follows the national trends. There were dips across the nation within math. At the elementary level, again, as I mentioned, kindergarten was really strong with their achievement, but even across the elementary, K-3 had a lot of good growth within math. An example would be Prairie View had some very nice achievement and growth results, and what they did is they focused on a specific strand within math, and they did a lot of professional development and tracking on that. But at the elementary level, we noticed more of a difference in the performance of our virtual students in math than we did in language arts. At the secondary level, we saw some nice progress at the middle school in math, but then we also noticed that some of the areas such as algebra and stats were areas that students performed better in comparatively than some of the other areas. And we noticed that number of operations, number quantity, and geometry were some areas that we saw larger dips in. In the area of student connectedness, this comes largely from our survey data, which I'll talk a little bit more about coming up. But there was really an emphasis across all the buildings on trying to support that student emotional needs, developing relationships, and there's a lot of creativity across across the board, and how do we develop relationships, and how do we help students feel connected when they have to be cohorted, or they have to be 6 feet apart, or they can't leave certain areas, or they're only here on certain days. So some examples would be at Washington and Wilson Elementary. They had virtual assemblies, virtual meetings where the kids could connect with each other and outside of their classroom on the screen. We also had the synchronous instruction that took place, especially at the middle school and high school. As we developed more of that synchronous instruction, then students were able to, whether they're at home learning or the in-person learning, have that same classroom environment feel. And we were able to also have events such as prom, homecoming, that, as the year progressed, we actually have some events to help build some of that connectedness with our students. But given that, it was still interesting as we looked at our survey data, and 5th grade is the youngest grade that we do the survey with. Even our 5th graders who were in person 5 days a week compared to not being in person 5 days a week, their data still showed that real need for connectedness, increased connectedness, opportunities, and social emotional supports going into next year. So that's just something that struck me, that even our elementary kids, it showed. They might not outwardly talk about it and say it, but as they express their feelings, it showed. So school perceptions is a survey that we've done for the past 2 to 3 years, and we do, depending on the group, it's been 2 or 3 years, and that just kind of gives, again, our perceptions, gives us perceptions from these different groups about how we're doing. So our student perception survey, it was interesting to see that our 6th graders had the most positive responses. So kudos to our 6th grade teachers, our middle school staff, to help 6th graders bridge that transition and feel positive and connected. But holistically, our connectedness score did dip. Kids felt less connected to schools than they had in the past. And the other area that showed that we need to grow is what they would call preparation. So helping students see what they're doing today and how that connects to next year or the next level or the next portion in their life for them. So building that connection on what we do now and how that prepares them for what comes next. Our staff survey showed that the area of workload was what we needed to work on the most, and that's not surprising. We asked a lot of our staff this past year, a lot. There's a lot of new learning, and we had our staff in all areas doing things that they had never done before, that hadn't been done in education holistically before. So our staff did a wonderful job this year. Our teaching staff, our support staff, our specialists, but we need to kind of get back to more of a typical workload for folks going into next year. And the staff survey also showed that affirmation, everybody needs to hear positives and hear how well they're doing. We do that, but we can always do more of that. Again, just affirm the work that people are doing, the great things that people are doing moving forward. Then our family survey, it was interesting to see that families that had students kind of at the beginning of each level, 1st grade students, 6th grade students, 9th grade students, had some of the highest positivity rates with their perceptions of school. And also across the high school, there was a lot of positivity from our parents with our high school programming and how things went this year. But what the parent survey did show us was we need to do a better job promoting the teaching of school skills. So organization, time management, communication, collaboration, those type of things which we do from kindergarten on up, but we don't necessarily share how we do that. The other thing it showed was we also need to continue to do a better job promoting what we're doing to support our students with some mental health needs or mental health supports, and we need to do a better job sharing how we help prepare students for college, make them college and career ready across the board, not just at a high school level, but from elementary on up.
Jesse, so on that last one, that was the parents' perception, correct? So that doesn't mean you're not doing it, it means they may not know you're doing it.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
and was that K-12, that response?
This was fifth grade through 11th
Or
grade.
the parents of just fifth grade through,
Those are the only, let me
No,
see.
for the
No,
family
that-
one?
I'm sorry, the family one is everybody,
That was,
yes.
Everyone?
that was a holistic training.
Yeah.
and they all thought the school skills, the mental health supports in college and career, that was like parents of students K through 12. It wasn't just one level?
Those are the top hitters across the board, yep.
Okay,
The college and career preparation one really stood out
okay.
for us. And, you know, there is a lot that we're doing. We can do a better job, especially at the younger levels. There's some opportunity there. But what we do, we don't necessarily celebrate as well. So part of our communication planning for next year, and we actually have it thematically laid out, is to make sure that we're helping keep our parents informed of what is taking place. Because there is a lot of good. Again, there's an opportunity to do even more, and do a better job of it, but there is a lot of good there. We just don't do a good enough job celebrating it.
So our next steps. Right now, we're in the midst of July. We're reviewing our performance data. Our assessment data is all in, and we're starting the planning for next year. In August, we have our administrative academy where we're going to develop our initial school success plans again and our strategic actions, and then there'll be a board workshop where you get to hear those initial pieces. So again, this year, we collected a lot of data. We laid a lot of groundwork and foundational pieces to move forward, and even though our metrics don't show that growth, the pieces that we've been able to prepare this year, I fully believe we're going to see significant gains next year. There was a lot of work done all around the district this past year. So with that, if you have questions, I'm happy to take questions from the board.
Questions for Jesse?
There was no school report cards for the last 2 years, right?
There was no school report card last year,
Okay.
because we didn't take assessments
Right.
in the spring of 2020. So the plan from the state is that this fall, there will be a school report card.
Oh.
Now, that's still subject, right now, we're hearing that it's going to be there, and they've changed the layout of it. They had already pre-planned before the pandemic to change the layout of it, but the plans are that there will be a school report card this fall. Now,
They
that
don't-
can change, but we're hearing that it's still going to be shared with us.
They don't know
Using
what
what
it's-
as the assessments for the report card?
Yep, so the assessments are, the academic assessments are 3 years' worth of data. So
Okay.
it will kind of have that blank year, but it will take this year and the 2 previous years that we had data. And
Okay.
at the high school level, it takes the ACT and the Aspire data into account. At the elementary and middle school level, it takes forward exam data.
Okay.
Other questions?
I appreciate your time, and as always, if you ever have any data questions or needs, just please reach out. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
'21, '22 preliminary budget tax levy adoption approval. Hello.
Hello. All right, so we'll start with a look at the budget calendar for this year, which is similar to what it looks like each year. So in July, on July 1, DPI issued the equalization aid estimates. Those are based off of what the proposed budget was, which is now approved. So those are as close as we have. And then hopefully tonight the board will approve and adopt the preliminary budget and tax levy for this year. And then that will allow us to spend the money on the things that we've identified for the year. In August, I'll again be bringing a cash flow borrowing resolution to the board. So this month yet, we will solicit bids from the local banks to have our line of credit this year. So we'll have those results for the August meeting. September, so third Friday enrollment count this year, which is what's used to calculate our revenue limit. So that third Friday falls on September 17th this year.
And then at the operations meeting on September 27th, I'll present a budget update with some of the known solidified numbers that we have at that point. October 1, the Wisconsin Department of Revenue will issue the equalized property valuations, so we'll know what our total base is for the year. October 15th will be the finalized equalization aid that'll come from DPI. On that day, they'll also let us know how many private school students we have that we will have to factor into the revenue limit for vouchers. And then October 25th is the budget hearing, and following that will be the board meeting where we will bring the original budget for adoption, as well as the final property tax levy. So taking a look at enrollment and what we might be looking at for fall, we are again looking at a decrease in the number of students for this fall. Usually what we do is we roll up the number that we had from the previous year to the next grade level, assuming that those students stay, knowing that some will leave and some will come in, but generally that gives us a pretty good estimate. So the three grades that tend to have the most fluctuation and unknowns at this point would be 4K. We're still working on those numbers coming in, but based on where we are with enrollment this year and how many we usually would pick up by fall, that's the estimate that we have for 4K. The same is true for kindergarten. And then ninth grade also changes because we get students who do come in from the private schools into our high school. So those are the numbers that we're looking at this year. Things are definitely going to change by fall. They usually do. But based on what we know at this point, this is the enrollment that we would be looking at.
Yeah, we see, just a little comment for anybody who's watching. So we see at the younger grade levels, we've had smaller cohorts of younger kiddos in our district attending. And at the high school, on the flip side, this coming year is going to be one of the largest enrollment years we've had in our high school since I don't know when. So it'll be over 1,100 pretty healthily, and you see the sizes of those cohorts. So sometimes when people hear that enrollment overall is down, but then enrollment at the high school is up, that's because the cohort sizes, and those cohort sizes that we're moving through were larger than the ones that are coming in. Sorry.
So on the revenue side, the revenue limit, based on the current state budget proposal, which was signed by the governor, so we're looking at no increase in revenue limit for this year. No increase to the low revenue ceiling, which is currently $10,000, and no allowed per member change to the revenue limit for this upcoming year. So what that really means is we're really tied by the revenue limit without seeing any increases. So that came out of the budget proposal is kind of what really holds us back. So our revenue limit is actually anticipated to increase due to the declining enrollment exemption. So that would be for 1 year only, looking at the number of students that we would anticipate being down. If it were not for that, we would actually see a decrease in our revenue limit for this year. But that would give us a one-time increase. The other piece that's factoring into that increase is anticipating an increase in the number of voucher program participants. So if you'll recall how the voucher program gets funded is students who live in the district can enroll into a school participating in the voucher program. Basically, the district taxes for those students, so it increases our revenue limit, we tax for that, and then that money gets paid over to the private schools. So we don't actually see anything stay with us as part of that increase in the revenue limit. That money just comes through us and then goes back out to the private schools. So we've seen relatively steady increases in enrollment in that program, and that's likely to continue based on past trends. Our equalization aid, we are looking at a relatively significant increase in the equalization aid. If you were following the budget story and how that went, essentially instead of giving that money to schools as additional aid, it was decided to put it into equalization aid. So although we end up getting additional money from the state because of the revenue limit, it serves as property tax relief. So we are tied to how much we can actually get through that revenue limit. So when the state aid increases, it means that we levy less in property taxes. So we don't see additional money that we can use for anything extra. On the expenditure side, wages for all staff will increase by CPI plus level movement for certified staff. Our health insurance costs, our premiums went up by 4.5% this year, 0% for dental insurance. We're adding several positions related to teaching and learning and student services. We're estimating a 5% increase in transportation costs. We're still working with our new transportation provider on exactly what those routes will look like. But 5% is the amount that we're using at this point. And then we typically budget a 5% increase for utility costs. So looking at our Fund 10 revenues and expenditures, or our general fund, so we're looking at total revenues and total expenditures of roughly $41 million each. It's a pretty tight budget. We're still looking to come out ahead, but by less than $25,000. So this is pretty close to balanced. This does not include any ESSER 3 funding. Because of not getting additional money from the state, we're anticipating that the ESSER funding that we did receive is going to have to be used for some of the things that we would normally spend on during the year. So instead of being above and beyond our normal budget, that money is going to have to be used for our standard expenditures. ESSER 3 funding is available through September 30 of 2023. So that is not something that would all fall into this upcoming fiscal year anyway. So for the time being, the preliminary budget does not include that federal money. So looking at our preliminary tax levy, you can see in the second column there for 2020, 2021, what it was this current year, and then what we're anticipating that it would be for 21, 22. So the change in the revenue limit that we talked about due to that non-recurring exemption as well as the voucher school enrollment, our equalization aid increase, our Fund 10 tax levy would be going down. That has to do with that property tax decrease that we talked about as a result of the additional state aid. And then looking at an all-fund tax levy decrease of just under $50,000 because of seeing the decrease in the 10 fund tax levy. We have an opportunity to levy additional money for Fund 80, which is our community service fund, as well as Fund 39, which is the referendum debt. So looking at what we did with the debt defeasance this past year in Fund 39. So being able to levy additional money would provide us with another opportunity to do a similar debt defeasance and increase our position in that referendum debt again. So we would anticipate levying that additional money in those two funds. So looking at a mill rate, so this current year, our mill rate was $8.99. So we would be anticipating a mill rate of $8.79, which is a decrease of 20 cents. This is just looking at the mill rates for this past year. Districts haven't set their mill rates for next year yet, but just keeping in mind the position that we were in this year, which was a great position compared to some of the other neighboring districts or districts of similar size to us. And we were below the state K-12 average of 922. So seeing a decrease for this coming year should keep us in a pretty good position again. So this is what we would be looking at tonight in order to adopt the preliminary budget and tax levy. In the board folder that was out there was the adoption format for the budget, which has all of the funds broken down by revenues and expenditures as well.
Questions?
She's tight.
It is gonna be a tight
$25,000
budget.
on a $40 million.
It's not a lot of wiggle room, that's for
No,
sure.
it's not.
Other questions anybody has? And if not, I will ask for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve and adopt the 2021-22 preliminary budget as presented, including the Fund 10 tax levy of $9,521,873 and the total tax levy of $16,472,669.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then to approve and adopt the preliminary budget as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Marge Jorgensen,
Yes.
Tony Platt,
Yes.
Rob Kraus,
Yes.
Mary Coombs,
Yes.
Lisa Handler,
Yes.
Jeff Reed,
Yes.
Bruce Gilman,
Yes.
Brent Rajewski,
Yes.
Beth Dillon.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Henry.
Marie?
All right, that moves us on to 9.3, recognitions. Anybody have any recognitions they would like to discuss?
Just, I had an opportunity to see the community, or the all-community high school musical online through the theater, and was impressed with the number of Beaver Dam students that were again in the area-wide high school musical, and they did a really nice job. Hopefully next year I'll get to see that in person. So, well done, though.
Others? Mark?
I wanted to take a brief moment to just thank all of our summer school staff for the work that they have been doing. They've got a couple more week and a half left, 2 weeks, I guess, of summer school. So I want to thank them, and then also thank the parents and the students who are participating in summer school and taking advantage of that opportunity. It's important, particularly now with some of the challenges that we work through, so they have some added learning and experiences with their peers. It's been going really well, so I want to thank them, and then also thank any of the staff, or all of the staff that have been involved in hiring, and anybody in the community that's been doing a nice job of promoting the positive in Beaver Dam. It's tough hiring in any industry, and we certainly support people being involved positively and helping draw good quality talent to our district.
I
All right,
just
thank-
wanted to thank Anne Marie for putting together this budget. It is tight, as John said. And I do also want to recognize that I met baby Josie this afternoon. What a cute.
Jealous.
All right, anybody else? All right, we will move on to reports by the board. Start with Operations Committee.
Okay, so I'm reading the meeting minutes tonight, but we did not reorganize because we didn't have enough of our committee members there, so we'll be doing that the next time we get together in September.
You're going to actually do that after?
After tonight,
Nope,
After the workshop.
the workshop.
the workshop.
Yep,
And the date for that is
next Monday.
next Monday.
July
Okay,
19th.
good. So I'm just filling in tonight. The meeting of the Operations Committee was held on June 28th at the ESC at 5:30. Gary Spielman and I were present. We reviewed the Board Standing Committee guidelines, and we're going to select a chair at the next meeting, after the workshop. Ms. Malkovich, Director of Business Learning, provided a budget update. She explained that the district's budget was relatively normal compared to other years. And we went through a lot of this, but additional pandemic-related expenses will be offset by grant funding. A small increase in general fund from the grant fund will allow the district to meet its long-term financial goals. She reviewed the district's 2021-22 preliminary budget and the State Joint Finance Committee's budget plan. Expenses will increase due to staff wages, health insurance, new teaching and learning, and student services staff, related positions, transportation costs, and utility costs. Property taxes are expected to be lower due to restricted revenue limits and increased state aid, which will decrease the amount of the projected pupil aid. She recommended no increase to student fees and reported that breakfast and lunch will again be free for all students for the 2021-22 school year. She recommended no change to any other meal prices. The preliminary budget will be presented to the board on, tonight it was, and will include the most accurate state budget information that's available. And then the 21-22 original budget will be brought to the board in October. Mr. Warwick, District Facility and Safety Officer, provided an update and overview of summer projects. The largest portion of projects will be completed at Lincoln Elementary School and Washington Elementary School. Washington Elementary School will receive updates and repairs along with projects at the middle school, Jefferson, Prairie View, and Wilson Elementary Schools. The athletic fields and tennis courts are ahead of schedule and on budget. Dr. White, Director of Human Resources, provided an update on staffing for the 2021-22 school year. She reviewed the certified staff vacancies, which increased by 1 FTE at the elementary level, 3 FTE at the middle school level, and 1 FTE at the high school level, and 4 FTE at the district level. We will not meet in July and August. The next meeting is scheduled for September 27th. And out of the committee meeting, we're bringing the recommendation, and I'm going to make a motion that the student fees and the breakfast and lunch, there will be no recommended change to any of the meal prices for next year.
We have a motion. Can we get a second?
I'm sorry, or student fees. There will be no increase in the meal prices or the student fees for next school year.
So we have a motion for no increase for lunch and student fees.
For meal prices.
Or, sorry, motion for no increase for meal prices and student fees.
Thank you.
Can we get a second?
Second.
That was a second.
It was-
Yes.
Good.
All in favor with that?
Aye.
All those not, same sign? All right. Thank you, Joanne, for sitting in on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Teaching and learning.
Teaching and Learning met on June 21st. Our committee members were Bev, Mary, John, and myself. We reviewed the board standing committee guidelines, and I was selected to be the committee chairperson again this year. Yay! Hence, I'm reading the items. Mr. Meyer, the Director of Teaching and Learning, reviewed the teaching and learning focus and focus areas, the professional development plan, and the academic standards for 2021-2022. He explained that the board will annually adopt the student academic achievement standards for the district. He provided an overview of the district's curriculum review cycle and warehouse, which replaced the Build Your Own Curriculum, the BYOC, and explained the board annually adopts that curriculum utilizing the standards with the understanding that there are continued processes for development. Some courses are currently under revision and will be revised and added as they are complete. He shared the support plan for students who may be at risk and explained that the board will annually adopt a plan to support students who may be at risk of not graduating with their peer group. He shared a recommended motion that is going to be presented this evening, and he's here to share a little bit more information about that.
that will adopt these overarching components of the procedural plan and updates for 2021, 2022. He also presented the end-of-year achievement gap reduction report, reviewed the reading and math data along with the AGR strategy. Lincoln and Jefferson Elementary Schools renewed their contract for 5 years, and Washington is in the middle or the midst of their 5-year agreement currently. We are not scheduled to meet in July or August, but we will be meeting on September 27th.
Yes.
Yes. And Rob is here now to share those updates on both the instructional planning and the AGR information.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief because you just got a wonderful update. As well as at committee, we went into depth into all of these. So as a board, you have access to all the information that's in this slide deck and the individual plans. But because we are requesting a motion tonight to approve some of these, I'm just going to spend a few minutes reviewing what they are. So we took a lot of procedural items that come out of teaching and learning and put those into kind of one presentation and one plan. And then again, at the conclusion of this, I'm going to ask for I'm going to recommend two actions by the Board of Education. So first off, just a reminder of teaching and learning focus, that my role and the role of teaching and learning, those I work with, really focus on making sure we have a safe and collaborative culture, so we're all working together for outcomes of students, that we have effective teaching in every classroom, so we have an effective evaluation system, we have professional development that's matched to that. We have a guaranteed and viable curriculum, so we know specifically what we're teaching when we're teaching it. We have effective resources for students and families, so some students need some things beyond what might be done every day to support them in either they need some support to be performing at grade level, or they are performing at grade level and need some supports beyond that. They need social, emotional learning support. They need supports through an individualized education plan, those sorts of things. So we make sure that we're implementing effective resources for students and families. So that's just kind of a nutshell of what my role and the role of teaching and learning is. Not a lot to do there. But the overall focus for this year, some things that we're looking at, making sure that we get done in order to accomplish those goals. Making sure that we have quality professional learning in place, and we have a plan for that. We will be going into a social studies curriculum review. That goes back to that guaranteed and viable curriculum. As the board passed pre-AP biology and chemistry as the curriculum for the high school earlier this year, we'll be implementing that. We're also working on, the board has become familiar with our RTI work, and so we are going to be making that a focus. We're going to implement the recommendations that came out of this year's ELL review team, and we're going to have that modified evaluation system for our staff, very similar to previous practice, some updated standards, some streamlining, and some refocusing on coaching of staff, again, to meet those goals I shared before, that one particularly the effective educator in every classroom and making sure that they feel coached and served well by us. The professional learning plan is linked there. That plan goes into detail about what I just shared, and that is something that annually goes in front of the board, and again, we went into detail on that in committee. Annually, we adopt academic standards, so at the end, I'll pull those up. Mary has those pulled up separately at the end. I'll pull those up just so you can see that document. But there is the same set of standards last year with the caveat, and on that document I have two sets of standards highlighted in yellow, and those are the English language proficiency standards and the Wisconsin standards for mathematics. Those received a light update. The math standards received a light update this spring from the Department of Public Instruction, and the English language proficiency standards were adopted from the state organization framework. And again, that'll be a separate action tonight because there is actually a parent notification requirement for us on the academic standards that we use. Curriculum and materials, as was mentioned, we migrated from what was BYOC and now use the curriculum warehouse. So a part of the action tonight too will be just endorsing the curriculum that is out there on that Google site, that is what we utilize. I would reiterate from Lisa's presentation that we we have some areas where there's some gaps in that we're developing because of the curriculum review cycle, new classes, that sort of thing, but we will continue to work on that. Again, this year we'll go into social studies as a review. Laura Schieffer will be guiding the counseling review because we do have curriculum that's attached to counseling that goes in front of our students. And then we're also going to make sure with our RTI revision that we're making sure that our ELL programming, RTI, at-risk, gifted and talented programmings all get reviewed this year as well. Earlier this year, you saw a guidebook that looks similar to this. So this is the support plan for our students who are at risk, particularly at the high school level. So we've gone over that in depth a few times. Tonight is the time for overall approval of that. That goes, and that needs to go to the board every year before August 15th. So here we are in July. Again, that's focusing right now on the high school and modifications in programming to best achieve those students. AGR programming, we again used a mix of coaching this year as well as, so the coaching model, because some of our class sizes were above 18, and we utilized, so we used coaching, and in some classes we were able to keep those grade levels at 18 or fewer. It was a challenge this year. It was a little bit of a go-between because of students coming in and out of virtual learning, but we were able to provide coaching where we did go above 18. Jesse went over most of our data. Mr. Peters went over most of our data, but you can see on this chart just what each school utilized in the blue column, and then what their data ended up showing over the course of the year. So if you take some time to look at that, there are some areas of significant growth. Recommended motions tonight, 2 different motions. One is that we approve the overarching components of the procedural updates. So there's things in there such as the at-risk report, curriculum, those types of things that are supposed to come in from year every year. So number 1 is an acknowledgement that we've done that. And then the second motion is specific to the academic standards that Mary can pull up and just show you what that document looks like. Again, there's the 2 in yellow are the new ones. Everything else on there was the standards I shared with you previously last year. So that is what we're endorsing in the second recommended motion.
So based on Lisa's summary and Rob's presentation, any questions before Lisa moves forward with the motions?
Rob, does this specifically address the move of the DSLA people to the high school as well?
So they are utilized in the at-risk plan as listed. So they will be working with those programs, either in supporting students in one way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Not by their name specifically,
Right,
but the programs that
because
they
of the
will be
program.
supporting, yes.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, Lisa.
All right. I move the board approve the overarching components of the procedural updates and plan for 2021-2022 as required by policy and statute. The administration of the Beaver Dam Unified School District has the authority to make non-holistic modifications to best meet the needs of the school's staff and students.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign? All right.
I move the board approve the use of the student academic standards as presented for use in designing, delivering, and evaluating curriculum.
Second.
And again, we have a motion and a second then. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign? All right, those are both approved.
Thank you very much. And for those of you that attended committee, that was a much longer presentation then, so I was trying to give it a little bit of brevity tonight. Thank you.
All right, 10.3 is talking about board engagement and coming through some comments and recommendations through the board evaluation. We tried to look at a document that would be very user-friendly and allow us to basically see what's going on in any given month and then allow the board members to sign up for those things that we haven't pre-assigned people to based on committee and assignment. And I think, there it is. So this is just an example of October of 2021. And you can see, as we know that there are things already going to happen in October, we've pre-populated those things in there. For those things that already have assigned people to them, whether it be committee or whether it be assignment, those committee member or those board members are listed on there. And then for those things that are gonna be more of a volunteer mechanism, like for example, School of the Month, for October would be the middle school, and we're looking to have 2 or 3 board members assigned to that. So you can actually go into that and add your name if you are looking to attend, or you can call or email Mary, and Mary can add your name to that list. So on any given month, this is basically a living document on who's attending any of the events that have board representation on it. Does that make sense for everybody?
Where's this stored, Chad?
It is gonna be stored where, Mary?
Warehouse, resources, right?
Board resources.
Okay.
So is it
Under board.
possible, because sometimes I do need people to hold my hand, that this be sent out maybe once a month to remind us it's time to sign up for the next month's?
You know what I can do is just keep it auto-populated in the status report updates. So
Yeah,
there's
in
a
your,
link.
status report or a weekly
Just
update
keep
once a
link.
month?
Just keep it
Perfect.
there as a standing link.
That's
That would
good.
be
to click
great.
on. And then the other things that are on here, or should be, just so you know, like staff advisory, parent advisory, be listed. And then if things come up, so right now we're looking at October, which happens to be homecoming month, right? So we have homecoming. So if there's gonna be a float decoration, if we add something specific, we'll add it, and then, we'll let you know that it
Okay.
was added as well, just as kind of a reminder. But we put all the standing items that we know are part of the standard engagement practices, kind of the more formal things that were part of that plan, in here already. And,
Good.
should I stop talking? Okay. And then if you have feedback, so like, again, the summer's a little weird, but once we get into, especially once we get into October, when we start having schools of the month, and there's more activities, if people have feedback, like something that they think would, they'd like to see on there, or they have an idea, just please send it, please share it.
Are school tours limited to 2 to 3 members, or if more want to, we'll post it if more want to tour?
No, I think we looked at hoping to get 2 or 3 board members. If there's 4 board members, 5 board members, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's like, that's like a target, we would always want to have at least 2,
But you
so.
still want us to sign up if there's more than 3?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a way,
Ideally.
I'm wondering if there's a way you can show it that,
Yeah.
2 to 3 members in the attendees, but then leave like more lines to sign up, so that we
Yep.
don't feel like we can't sign up if
Yep.
there's 3
And
people
we'll be
there.
posting those, because with the coffee chat and the school tour, you'll notice, so most of those tours are gonna happen, really, they're right after. So we post those chats anyway, so we're gonna post the chat and the tours, just so people know that that's what the board's doing, and then if more people show up, that's great.
And the school of the month is always Thursdays, is that right?
First
Is
Thursday.
that how it comes out to be?
I
don't know.
believe that's when we're doing if October 7th is a Thursday, Yeah.
That's not gonna work.
yeah.
So, just a question, is that maybe something, because I see you looking like it doesn't work for you or Marge, that maybe it's not always on a Thursday? Or is that how it is?
So we did that thematically. I mean, the tours, we could do secondary tours, we could look at some other things for the tours. As far as the
Yeah.
coffee chats, that component,
That's
we've always
fine.
had that thematically aligned to a day, the month and the day. So the first Thursday of the month is when those coffee chats are, so that's what we typically have done, from a communication standpoint.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not opposed to, and if you want to give, chats and feedback in particular, if we want to look at, for a couple of the months, either doing a secondary tour, I know the principals wouldn't mind it, I wouldn't mind it if we had a second opportunity.
That'd be nice.
I'd like to do
Yeah.
it. No, I suppose that day doesn't necessarily work then. Is it the day or the time that's more challenging?
The day,
The day
Day
of
of
the
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 week.
Thursday, yeah.
How many people is Thursday not good?
2.
Marge, Mary?
I mean, I'm at work, so.
Right,
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So I
just,
think the plan would be to just stick with Thursday, and if you have an interest in wanting to tour a school and you can't make that date, I would reach out to me or Mark, and we can set a secondary tour up.
Is
after
there a-
meeting with the principal?
Is there a better day of the week, like that, for a secondary tour, or is an evening the better alternative time that more people could make a tour of something?
Well, the problem with any kind of tour in the evening is we wouldn't get to
We don't
see
see
like what's
students.
going on in the
Right.
school during the school
Which
day.
is fine, except like maybe they want to see Jefferson or the school where we've done a lot of work this year, you know, if they want to see a
Yeah.
facility.
I think we can do that with a secondary request, though. I mean,
Yeah.
those that can make it to the Thursday and wanna be there, we can do that. And if there's interest in having a secondary tour take place, especially at schools where maybe there's been some work done and people wanna see it, we can do it based on interest.
Okay.
And we'll roll that out to everybody. So let's say, Marge says, hey, I'd really like to get through that school. Is there another time that works? We'll decide on a date and we'll throw it out for everybody.
Yep.
So that anybody can also come to that.
like I said, I'll just keep the link too, so when you get the weekly piece, you can always click on it. And then if there's something new on there, I can even reference it, just make it a separate column.
Perfect.
Like a board engagement, put that in there, and if there's any new items, I can just throw those on there.
Thank you.
Yep. Better do that right now. Talking big.
And like Mark said, if there's something that doesn't seem to sit right or doesn't make sense, or there's a way to improve it, just let us know. This is kind of the first stab at it this year to kind of provide a living document to let everybody know who's going to what and what's happening at any given month. Because we do ask the board to be involved in a lot of things, and sometimes it can get busy. And we want to make sure, obviously, that we have decent representation at each event as well, that we ask the board members to attend. So this will allow us to always be able to take a look and see who's all going to what.
So does the school tour occur at 9 o'clock or right sometime after the coffee chat?
After the coffee chat, so, yeah, around 9.
Okay.
And I mean, people have their schedules, you guys are all very busy anyway, so, I mean, if you want to throw your name out there, but you're not going to be able to join till 9:15, just send me a message, it's not an issue. Or if you can only go to the coffee chat and you have to bug out to work, that's totally fine too.
Yep.
So, don't feel like all of a sudden you're pigeonholed, you got 2 hours of time for sure that you're locked in.
Once you put your name on there, you are fully committed.
I would just, if we go a couple of months and there's like 4 or 5 people that are always working on Thursdays, we might want to just reassess, because then it comes really hard when we try to make sure these are all covered for the last
Yeah.
couple of us that are left, that we feel like we have to be at everything.
Yeah. The
So-
tours, I really think we could even add another opportunity, I don't think that's gonna be that big of a deal
Okay.
to do that, especially if it's after this, because then we'll already have generally we'll have scripted out the things, and, because the principals will talk about a couple of highlights and those other pieces, so if it's after this and another day works, that's fine.
Perfect.
And we can still sign up the morning of?
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
You can call Mary anytime.
I got her home number.
Other questions?
So we're thinking that the combination of the chat and the tour are going to be about a 2.5-hour block of time?
Probably 2. I think 2.5 would be tops.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, we'll work with this and make improvements along the way as you guys see fit.
Thanks for doing that.
All right, we will then move on to 11.
I move we go into closed session per Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to discuss specific employees and the evaluation of the superintendent. The board will reconvene into open session for possible transaction of business and adjournment.
Second.
Back, we have a motion and a second to move into closed session. We need a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 All right, I would anticipate about half hour, tops.
We're going to take 5?
Huh?
We're just going to go take a
Yep.
couple minutes?
Yep, we'll, I'll meet everybody down. the
We're,
same
we're
room.
not, no, we're not, because
Oh.
they're waxing, so we're actually going this way. So if you just come out, take a left, there's bathrooms on your left after about 30 yards, and then we're gonna be right in that general vicinity.
Okay.
So instead of going right, we're going left.
Going that way.
If you get lost, I'll come and find you.
Send up a flare.
So everything in Milwaukee is going really well, so when I was down there, I made sure everything was still functioning good, so when we get down there for school board, it shouldn't bother me.
Old fashioned from the fountain.
Oh yeah, I had a couple.
Hey, that ship sailed. That's okay. I was watching Legion baseball. It was great.
All right, we have reconvened back into open session, and we will move up. You are right there.
Been here the whole
We will
time.
move to district policy and guidelines.
We have 3 resignations for your consideration this evening.
I move the board approve the resignations as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second then to approve the resignations as presented. All in favor? All those not, same sign. All right.
We do not have any leaves of absence tonight, so that brings us to appointments. We have Enda Breeden, English Language Arts for the middle school. Amanda Delgadillo, English Language Arts for the high school. Caitlin Erie, Social Studies teacher for the high school. Lydia Frazier, English Language Arts for the high school. Sarah Kautza, 5th grade teacher for Jefferson. Nathaniel Moran, 3rd grade teacher for Prairie View Elementary. Holly Paul, occupational therapist for the district. Olivia Pilsner, special education teacher for Washington Elementary School. Shauna Steffes, at-risk teacher at the high school. And Linda Trenton, elementary program support teacher.
I move the board approve the appointments as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the appointments as presented. Roll call vote, please.
John Cost?
Yes.
Mary Quinn?
Yes.
Lisa Panther?
Yes.
Jeff Ruby?
Yes.
Gary Spielman?
Yes.
Brian Knight.
Yes.
Deb Dillon?
Yes.
Marge Jorgensen?
Yes.
Tony Clark?
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Before you go anywhere, Nicole, how many do you have left?
So we have 1 speech and language, 1 psychologist, 1 high school phy ed, and we're interviewing for high school special ed on Wednesday. So 4 positions open, and then TA positions, so.
Did great,
Excellent.
though.
That's good.
Good job, thank you.
Very busy.
All right, on to other business, payment of claims.
I move the board approve payment and claims in the amount of $3,952,921.70.
Second.
Motion and a second then to approve the payment of claims. Roll call vote, please.
Mary Quinn?
Yes.
Lisa Panther?
Yes.
Jeff Ruby?
Yes.
Gary Spielman?
Yes.
Brian Knight.
Yes.
Deb Dillon?
Yes.
Marge Jorgensen?
Yes.
Tony Clark?
Yes.
John Cost?
Yes.
All right, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.